This is now section 19 of the Fool's Journey, where the Fool meets the Sun card on his trip through the major trumps. And at this point it looks good, just by looking at the card. And especially it's an awful lot better when you consider what the Fool has been through, because we go back to the Hanged Man, number 12, and it's kind of dark. And then we get Death, which is also dark and dreary. And then we had the Devil, well, there's the Temperance card, but we did the Devil. And then we got the Tower, and we've got the Moon. So it's been sort of one negative, one problem after another for a while. But now we've got the Sun. So it's as if we've emerged into the light. And after the Sun, we've got Judgment and the World. So things are sort of getting better at this point. So if we go back and consider the Moon, what we've just been through, the Moon, the difference between the Moon and the Sun is the Moon is nighttime and darkness, and the Sun is daytime and light. And it can be useful to think about the difference in the atmosphere of night and day. Because if you've got a problem at night and you think about it at nighttime and it's dark, it can appear to be an awful lot worse than it actually is. Whereas if you look at the same problem in daytime or when the sun is shining, it doesn't seem quite as bad. And so part of the advice of the Sun card might be make decisions in daytime, or if you have to decide something, wait until it's light. So at this point, the Fool ought to be happy because now we're dealing with the Sun, and we've got away from the darkness. So it's a bit like a new beginning, or a new state, or a new stage in his affairs. And the picture is bright, and the sun's shining, and the child is smiling and happy. So it looks like an improved situation. And it also looks like there's confidence and there's optimism in this particular card, or that go along with maybe a sense of release after the darkness of the Moon and the cards that came before it. So we've got release, relief, confidence, optimism, hope, a positive outlook on the future, all connected with this particular Sun card. One last point about the Moon is the Moon is no light of her own. She shines by reflected light. And so it can be that we're moving not just from darkness into light, but we're moving from the copy into the original, right? Because the sun is the light, the moon only appears to be light. So it's as if we're going from, if you see a flower in a mirror, it's easy to misunderstand or to mistake the picture or the flower in the mirror for the original. But at this point, the Fool has seen the copy, we can say, or the reflection, and now he's dealing with the original creative source or the original creative idea that was only reflected by the Moon card. So the original is a sunny day, and it's probably better than a rainy one. So here we have light and heat, and the sun's light and heat makes life possible and enjoyable. Because, I'm thinking of a sunny day is more pleasant than a wet and windy one. Or maybe not. Somebody once said, there's neither good weather nor bad weather, there's only weather. And I can understand that. So anyway, this also may be the Fool revitalized or renewed, because here in the Fool card, the feather in the cap, or the feather here, and a baton. Here we've got the feather in the child's hat, and there's a baton as well, only instead of being over the shoulder, it's now a banner, right? So maybe the Sun card represents the renewal and the revitalization of the Fool. So it can be that the Fool's going to recognize himself in the Sun card more easily than with others. There's improvement, or there's a change here, because the Fool is inexperienced. That's one of the meanings that we got from that early on. And so is the child, inexperienced, but there's a difference, because the child may be new and inexperienced, but the child is also learning and growing, and in many ways the child is smarter than the Fool. So it's a bit like, I was trying to think about how to illustrate that. And children often will say very wise things. And there's a TV show called 2.5 Men. If you watch it and listen to what Jake, the son, says, because Alan, the father, is always trying to manipulate Jake the way parents do. But Jake sticks to the truth. And a lot of what he says is very witty and very clever. So we've got the child here, and the child can represent inexperience, but also, wisdom and a cleverness that is probably lacking in the fool, especially the fool at the beginning of the journey. And when I was looking at this card, some years ago, there's a friend of mine had a baby, and I went to visit her, and the baby was lying on the floor, kicking its legs and waving its arms around. So we both lay on the floor beside the baby and tried to duplicate what the baby was doing. So the baby would kick its leg, we'd kick her leg. The baby would move its arm and roll over, we'd move our arm and roll over. After about 3 minutes, we were tired out. The parents, the adults, were tired out. The baby was still going. An hour later, it was still kicking its legs, and we'd given up a long time beforehand. So it's easy to look at this card and see weakness and lack of strength, but actually, the point is the child and this card are strong and enduring, and they go on. And there's more than that, even though it's easy to look at the child and see weakness or lack of strength. In some ways it's true, but there's a lot else going on besides this. So because this is the fool's journey, maybe we're going to say, let's say the fool asks the child a question, and let's say the fool says to the child, okay, what's going on here? And the child replies, and this is something that a quote that somebody sent me. The quote is, it's not about recreating the sun, it's simply about removing the clouds. And the fool thinks to himself, I kind of like that. So what can it mean? Maybe it means that I have to see the light and the sun shine behind the clouds. So don't focus on the darkness or the lack or what isn't there or the outer appearance, but remember the creative force that's behind it all. So I think we can understand that you can get discouraged or dismayed when things go bad or when they're not going well or when they're not going well enough. But at times like that, instead of being sidetracked by the appearance, by the clouds, see the truth behind it, that the sun is always shining, even if we can't see it. And the sun is doing what it does, and is being true to itself. And maybe that's what the child and what this card represents for the fool, that at a certain point you have to be true to your own nature and do what you have to do. And not be taken in by the appearance, but relate to the reality behind the appearance. So the thing, I think, in spite of what anybody might tell you, I think it's a fact that you can have what you desire. I think as long as it's not going to hurt somebody. So if I desire a gun to kill my neighbour who annoys me, that's not quite what we're talking about. But most people's desires don't involve hurting other people. So most people's desires are fine. So I think I want to say that the sun also represents love, because when you think how revitalized or healed a person is who knows that they're loved or that they're cared for, when they know that, they can begin to shine, or maybe they can shine for the first time. So lots of people nowadays are trying to make the law of attraction work for them, to bring improvement into their life. So they have affirmations and vision boards, I think they're called, and all that. But let's say even with daily affirmations, it doesn't bring them what they want. And so they may give up. And I think it's because with the law of attraction, the hard part is to get your mind around the idea that you already have it, whatever it may be. So you've got your list of stuff. But you're supposed to understand that you already have it in some way, and it's just a matter of time before it materializes. But it's hard to get to sort of understand that. So an example can be, I read about this fellow. He was an insurance salesman, and the company had a list, and he was around about 180 on the list of best-selling salesmen. And he wanted to make it into the top 100, and he tried and he tried and he tried and was getting nowhere. And the problem was his starting point. He saw himself as number 180 on the list. And so he thought and acted like the 180th person on the list. However, he made progress when he began to think of himself as number 99 on that same list. So he thought and acted and worked from that position, and that's when he got results. So people want to use the law of attraction, and they make a list of what they want, but it doesn't work, so they give up. However, if you want something and you keep focusing on what isn't there yet or not having it, you're putting up a barrier, and so you give up. But that's like, the barrier is a bit like the clouds. Whereas if you can be like the sun and radiate and be true to the sun nature and keep shining day and night, because it's always daytime somewhere, then you're living in possession of whatever it is that you are trying to achieve, and it's going to happen. So you're not recreating the sun, you're enjoying it because you already have it. And so this approach works because we're an awful lot better and more together and more worthwhile than people think we are or give us credit for. If you think about it, most people are damaged, or they've been bent out of shape by life or by people. So it has been damaged people who've been telling us that we're not good enough, or we should do this or we should do that. But the thing is, these people are giving us the advice are damaged in the first place, so we shouldn't automatically accept what they say as being true, 100% true and accurate, and try and follow it. We really ought to take what they say and consider it and maybe improve it. Because you're the sun, and you're already, good enough, because you've got the creative sun energy and ability, and it's shining within you. So express that creative side and do what's going to help you live more fully. And use your intelligence as well, because intelligence is a bit like muscles. If you exercise them, they become stronger. If you use your intelligence, it's going to become stronger as well. Because we're like the sun, and we're creative, and we can make people happy, and we can get people motivated, and that's very important as well. So you don't have to create the sun from nothing or recreate it. You already are creative, so remove the clouds and express yourself in your own way, or in the way that only you can. And that's something about the sun card.